Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. According to my watch, it's 6 o'clock and 15 seconds. And they are due back at this time. We are back, and there goes Frankie.
Yep.
Want to say hi?
Hi.
All right. We are at the Buena Park City Council meeting. There is a public hearing coming up. Is the next item of business, and that's a public hearing. And the reason we had to take a break is because the law says when they do a public hearing, they must indeed have it at that time. They can't have a public hearing and announce it at 6 o'clock and then start early, because you would not be there on time if you were wanting to be there. So there is a public hearing at 6 o'clock when they start back in. Pursuant to Code of Civil Procedure, et cetera, adoption of a resolution of necessity declaring certain real property interests necessary for a public purpose and authorizing the acquisition of permanent highway easements and temporary construction easements for terms of 6 months from Orange County Assessor Parcel Number, and it gives the numbers, in connection with the Orange Thorpe Avenue widening project in the city of Buena Park. And the staff report is by Kirsten Bowman, Assistant City Attorney. Purpose is to consider the adoption of a resolution for the acquisition of eminent or by eminent domain of portions of certain real property interest for public purposes in connection with the Orange Thorpe Avenue widening project and Stanton Avenue to the Interstate 5 freeway. The recommended action, of course, is more detailed. I'll not read all that to you. They'll talk that. They'll probably read that in a little bit, so you'll just hear it twice. No use doing that. But 320 square foot permanent highway easement and an 80-foot square temporary construction easement with a term of 6 months from the real property located on Orange Thorpe Avenue in the city of Buena Park and identified as a portion of Orange County Tax Assessor Parcel Number. I would remind you that about 29 years ago, there was a particular situation for this. They were widening Western Avenue, and they were going to declare eminent domain on the property near our church. And we said, no, don't do that. We'll give you the property. They did not have to take it by eminent domain. So we, the church, I wasn't even the pastor here then, the church did, but the church made its own ruling and said they would give X number of feet frontage there along Western Avenue because we had plenty of room. And that property was given to the city about 29 years ago, not taken by eminent domain, but given to the city by the First Southern Baptist Church of Buena Park. Now, I was not here then, so you can't blame me or give me credit for it. I wasn't here then. That was before my time. I've only been here 27 years. But this is a situation where they are doing some widening and some improvements, etc. And they cannot do it without having a public hearing. And, of course, they're going to be having that public hearing tonight. And that's what this public hearing is all about. And so we'll continue to talk here until they start, and then I'll go silent again, and we'll be sure to let them get started on time. They're starting on time, city time, that is. Always usually a little bit later than what they say. Former Mayor Swift and Councilmember Swift and Councilmember Fred Smith are back in their seats, and Mr. Brown is back in his seat, and now we're just waiting on the mayor, Mr. Steve Berry. And when he comes back in, he'll call this meeting back to order and be able then to proceed with this public hearing. Don't know how long it'll be, but it's item 13, which is the last item on the agenda, And when that is over, then they will move into another section called oral communications. That's when those of us that would like and have filled out the form will be able to speak up to 5 minutes. No more than, but up to 5 minutes. Meeting is called to order.
Thank you for joining us. It is after 6 p.m. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing item number 13. And it has a very long title, and I think we're going to have a presentation, so I won't get you through repeating that. That will be presented by Buena, Assistant City Attorney.
I'm going to be just checking. Okay, there we go. Good evening, Mayor Berry, Mayor Pro Tem Brown, and remaining City Council members. We have before you two proposed resolutions of necessity to acquire permanent and temporary construction easements for two separate parcels which are located on Orangethorpe Avenue as a part of the Orangethorpe Avenue widening project between Stanton Avenue and the I-5 freeway. The property interests that we are seeking to acquire are owned by several different parties with different percentage ownership interests. This particular square right here is the 8116 Orangethorpe. We identify that as such, and that is parcel 8, assessor's parcel number 070071-12. And then the other parcel that we're seeking to, or we will be impacting, is this particular parcel, and we identify that as 8118. And here is Orangethorpe Avenue. Now, with regard to assessor's parcel number 070-071-14, that is this little driveway right here. We are seeking to acquire a 320 square foot permanent highway easement and an 80 square foot temporary construction easement for a term of 6 months. That particular property, the driveway, there we go. That is owned by 1/3 by Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, 1/3 is owned by the city, and 1/3 is owned by the Petrozelli and Zersky families. And as you can see right here, this is the permanent highway easement that we're seeking to acquire. And this right here is the temporary construction easement that we're seeking to acquire. And again, this is just the small driveway portion of the property.
This whole thing is about the size of a garage.
Probably smaller.
Yeah, smaller.
Okay. And then we have assessor's parcel number 070-071-12. And that is improved with an automotive repair shop, an industrial building, and a commercial building. The entire parcel is 50% by Pat and Anna Petrozelli, the Petrozelli family, and the other half is now owned by 3 brothers, the Zersky brothers, Stephen, Michael, and Gerald. And I'll scroll back, and that is this entire parcel right here. 50% is owned by the Petrozellis, and 50% is owned by the Zerskys. My understanding is those are undivided interests in the property. And we are seeking to acquire a 2520 square foot, 2,520 square foot permanent highway easement and a 630 square foot temporary construction easement for a term of 6 months. And this depicts the permanent highway easement that we're seeking to acquire. It is along the frontage of the property, and it basically is characterized as what we call a strip taking. And then this is the temporary construction easement. Again, the temporary construction easement is for a 6-month time period. We anticipate it will be about 3 months. And the temporary construction easement basically for both parcels is to assist the city in the construction as a part of the project. At the end of this particular presentation, as well as any comments from the public, we will be asking the City Council to make 4 findings. The first finding will be public interest and necessity require the proposed project, which is the Orange-Thorpe Avenue widening project. The proposed project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, and the subject property interests are necessary for the proposed project, and finally, that the city had made an offer to the owners as required under Government Code Section 7267.2. Now, with regard to the history of the project, the County of Orange in approximately 1956 established what we call an Orange County Master Plan of Arterial Highways, or MPAH. And under this particular plan, Orange-Thorpe Avenue is characterized as a major arterial highway wherein it is expected to handle traffic volumes up to 30 to 45,000 vehicle trips per day. And under the MPAH, as I had indicated, Orange-Thorpe Avenue was characterized as a major arterial highway. And included in that is that it is required to have a 120 square foot, or I should say 120 foot length, as well as at least 3 travel lanes in each direction. In 1995, OCTA, or Orange County Transportation Authority, I believe that someone prior to me had spoken about OCTA, had taken over the MPAH. And again, as I had indicated, requires 120 feet street width, 3 travel lanes in each direction. In 2014, the MPAH was updated. And again, it identified Orange-Thorpe Avenue within the proposed project limits as being insufficient to operate as a major arterial highway. Now, with regard to the proposed project, in 1994, the general plan, as well as the 2010 general plan update, described the need for the proposed project. I am going to hand this over to Jim Byrie, if he's there, and he will advise you as to what the proposed project is.
Thank you. As indicated, the proposed project would be constructing a project to complete not only our general plan but also the requirements of the MPAH. It's in our general plan in 1994 and also again in 2010. This corridor was brought out as a major corridor within our city. It's also something that every year we have to work with OCTA in updating our status in our completion of the master plan of arterial highways. We have to show that this part still is not complete. Why we also in 2010 identified, there was two reasons why the need for that was identified. One is the gateway to the city coming in from the east. It also unifies our streetscape to finish that, and building and completing the eastern corridor near Orange-Thorpe was a priority with our general plan, and it's something actually the City Council and formerly the redevelopment agency, now the Housing Authority, have done to acquire properties to move along in that area. And the city's also done capital projects in the past on Orange-Thorpe. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the mobility element talks about why you do that, why you build your roadways to certain standards, and what the goals are for arterial standards, for moving traffic, for moving goods and people, and for operation of the system. At the time, this was 3 alternatives were identified originally when this project was considered. In that case, one was obviously a no-build concept, and the other, alternative A and B, were both done. Alternative B is no longer relevant because that was dealing with some of the other right-of-way problems out there, deficiencies. Now we're looking at alternative A since the property and that was looked at in alternative B has now been acquired. Alternative A is the selective alternative. On June 2007, we completed some widening on the north side of Orange-Thorpe to basically get us to the major arterial standard with 3 travel lanes as indicated previously. This is our proposed project now, which is to finish the south side from Stanton to Indiana and mirror that same image that we have on the north side. Again, in this case, we will have, this portion will be installing a center median, through lanes, a sidewalk, and also parking lane. Back over.
And I would like to add that Orangethorpe, west of Stanton, is to the current major arterial standards. As part of the proposed project, the city is required to comply with CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. And as such, we prepared an initial study, and we also prepared a mitigated negative declaration wherein we evaluated the potential environmental impacts for the following topical areas. And when we did this analysis, what we did was we considered the alternatives again, which was the no-build alternative, the alternative A, and alternative B, alternative A being the selected alternative. And so again, as part of the mitigated neg dec, or the mitigated negative declaration, we considered the air quality, for example, construction, dust. We considered also land use and planning. Of course, that would be the impacts on the adjacent properties and the property owners and businesses. We also considered noise, construction during the noise, in compliance with the City of Buena Park's noise ordinances. We also considered transportation and traffic. Typically, when there is construction in a project, it's necessary for the contractors to make sure that at least some of the traffic can get by. Proper laying of cones, warnings, things of that nature. And then also utilities and service systems would require us to coordinate with utilities in terms of relocating telephone lines, electrical, fiber optics, and things of that nature. As part of the environmental review and the mitigated negative declaration, we established mitigation measures to reduce the impacts to levels of less than significant. And as I have previously stated, those address the air, the noise, utilities, land use, and traffic uses. On November 12, 2002, the mitigated negative declaration was adopted by the City Council. And now in 1994, the general plan was updated in 2010. And as part of that general plan update, it was necessary for the city to prepare an environmental impact report to support the general plan update. And within the environmental impact report, it identified Orangethorpe Avenue again as a major arterial highway. And it included the proposed project in its analysis and reaffirmed the mitigation requirements of the 2002 mitigated negative declaration. Again, we had the land use, we had the noise, we had the dust, we had utilities, we had traffic, those mitigation requirements, and also considered land use and community design elements, as was mentioned by Mr. Byrie, as well as mobility and circulation elements. The draft EIR was distributed for public comment and review September 28, 2010, and December 17, 2010, the EIR was certified by the City Council. As part of our obligations in terms of negotiating with the property owners, the City commissioned the preparation of an appraisal of the property interests by Joyce L. Riggs of Riggs & Riggs. She is an SRWA, which is a senior right-of-way agent, as well as a MAI, which is a member of the Appraisal Institute. Upon completion of our appraisals, as City Council may recall, we submitted those to City Council for their approval and authorization to tender offers to the property owners. The City made offers to the property owners in accordance with Government Code 7267.2, and we sent copies of the appraisals to the property owners. We've had some communications between the city and two of the property owners of the Petrozelli-Zerski property. My understanding is that when the city did tender the offers, we were required to tender the offers to the property owners that were identified on the title report, which happened to be a lady named Judith Okonski, who was the trustee of the Zersky Family Trust. We subsequently found out that the property, there was a successor trustee, and his name, I believe, was Robert Huntington, who then was the successor trustee of the trust, which therefore he was the owner of the property or the trustee of the property. And just recently we received confirmation from Stephen Zersky, one of the three Zersky brothers, that the trust has finally been, or the property within the trust, which is the subject matter of this particular action, was subsequently conveyed to the three Zersky brothers, which are Stephen, Michael, and Gerald. We also tendered the offers to the Petrozellis. Pat and Anna had reached out to Scott Reardon of the city, indicating their desire to obtain an appraisal. Unfortunately, because all of the parties, the Petrozellis and the Zerskys, could not agree on obtaining an appraisal, they have not obtained one to date. We are hopeful that perhaps the property owners can try to work together amongst themselves. But at this point, we've tendered the offer to them. We have not received any type of counter offer from any of the property owners. And as I had indicated, the city is in compliance with 7267.2 of the government code. Before I ask the city to take any type of action on the findings, we're going to open this up for public comment. However, what I would like to do, just for the record for the city clerk, I would like to acknowledge receipt of written correspondence dated September 30th, 2014 from Patrick Petrozelli and Anna Petrozelli. Correspondence again from Patrick and Anna Petrozelli dated October 20, 2014. Correspondence from the Pierce Law Firm dated October 7, 2014. And finally, a letter from Stephen Zersky on behalf of himself as well as his brother Michael, dated November 6, 2014. And then I also would like to add that I did receive an email from Michael Zersky this afternoon indicating that although he wanted to speak today, he would be unable to do so because he had a flight to catch. And with that, I'm going to open this up for any type of public comment.
Before we do that, I'd like to also open up for any questions. Questions at this point? None? Okay. We will go to public hearing then. Open public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, we would like to have you fill out a speaker identification form if possible. Submit it to our city clerk. We'll have you step up to the lectern. We do give you 5 minutes.
I have 2 speaker forms for item 13.
Okay.
And the first one is from Brad Pierce, and the second one is from Pat Petrozelli.
Mr. Pierce, we have a timing device here. The green means you're in good shape. Yellow means you've got about a minute remaining. And red means I'm going to cut you off. So go ahead.
Okay. I can't agree to that, but it's your rules. My name is Brad Pierce. I represent Gerald Zersky as well as C&O Garage. We've got a couple of problems with the project as designed. Excuse me, and I'll stand back. 1, I'm loud, and 2, I've been talking a lot, which is part of what I do. But anyway, we have concerns about the way the project is currently designed. If you take a look at the property on an aerial photograph with the project superimposed on it, you'll note that the front of the property entirely disappears. This property is used as an automotive repair specifically for trucks. The front of the property is enormously important to the operation of the garage. So our point here is to comply with your obligations under the greatest public good, least private injury, and to make that finding, the relocation assistance contemplated by the code needs to be provided to this particular business. I'm not saying that this results in an acquisition of the entire parcel, excuse me. But in this case, because the property taking this additional 20 feet plus the temporary construction easement comes all the way up to the front of the building, you can't meet your requirement of greatest public good, least private injury without providing relocation assistance. And by the way, we did submit correspondence, and I know it was just mentioned, is that we anticipate that being made part of the public record, so I won't need to read through that whole letter. That's all right. We have some issues about the 7267.2 offer, and I know that this isn't the venue for talking about valuation, but this goes to the same point. It cannot realistically be asserted that the acquisition of this 20 feet almost to the front door of this property with roll-up doors for to access the garage would not result in severance damages. It appears that the 7267.2 offer was developed from maps, possibly a site visit, but the limits of the project have not been identified on the property. And I've worked with staff, and they're going to go out there and make some marks on the property, and we can take some pictures of that and come back in and show you the proximity. But what we can't do is go forward on the record as it is and then compel C&O Garage to go seek compensation for loss of goodwill, because that's not a remedy. They don't want to be bought out. They don't want to close, but they can't operate there. They just need the relocation assistance that's contemplated by the code that's provided in nearly every eminent domain action out there. I mean, that's part of why eminent domain and redevelopment got such a bad name, was moving forward and sort of placing the burden of public improvement projects on the back of the individual owners. In this case, the garage isn't going to be able to survive, and I don't think that you've got an adequate record before you for you guys to make a decision concerning greatest public good, least private injury. If you take a look, I think it's maybe page 415 of your packet, you're going to note, you'll be able to see how much of the property is consumed by the roadway widening, not just the temporary construction easement, but the roadway widening. Unfortunately, the property isn't, the building, the improvement is not superimposed on this. And I think maybe one of the slides in the presentation had it, but I couldn't really see that well. Additionally, though, the front of the building has these garage doors that open, like a garage door does, and there's no curb and gutter. So right now you can roll right up to any one of those garage doors. In the after condition, there may be curb and gutter, there may be street parking, or maybe it's one giant driveway. Either way, all of the parking is gone. So our point here is that you can't proceed with the project. It's not that the project is in some way evil or not even a public use. We're saying you can't make the findings in item number 2 because the proposed project is inconsistent with the greatest public good and least private injury because it makes no mechanism or vehicle to permit this particular business to continue to function. It's just dollars per square foot of land without any recognition for the other impacts, and that's our biggest concern. Would you like to ask me any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And the only other speaker card I have is from Pat Petrozelli.
Good evening, Mayor Barry, fellow council members. My wife Ann and I are here tonight to kind of represent our interest in this whole debacle. We'll refer to it as. I can certainly appreciate Brad and Gerald's position on their compromising of the front of their building, and I'm concerned about that for them as well because ultimately it will impact us too. We're not certainly wanting to get in the way of any progress for the city of Buena Park. We've been in business there since '93. My father-in-law, who I bought the building from back in '95, was there, I believe, since 1985. He was partners with the Zersky brothers' father and his wife, and in purchasing his interest, of course, we inherited them as our partners. So with that said, our big concern really is the disruption potentially of the business that we run there and access, egress, and so on for trucks making deliveries, our trucks coming and going, and so on. As Brad mentioned as well, we're not necessarily going to beat the drum from the standpoint of the appraisal amount, but when that came in, I was kind of shocked. And just a little bit of history on that, over the years, we've had many, many offers, not only by the city of Buena Park when redevelopment was part of the picture here, but by private investors as well as the current developers of the site behind us. It's been scraped. None of the numbers add up that we saw in this most recent appraisal. And I'm not striking down the lady's, degree of expertise in putting this together, but some of the comps she used were age-old properties that were, if you will, blighted out of the area. There was some down in Garden Grove and one in Anaheim that was like, let's focus on this area. The focus my wife and I have is that ultimately when all this is said and done is that we've got to go out and purchase a property that's of like size and situation. And, it's going to cost us way more than kind of the numbers are thrown around. So that's ultimately our main concern. We're not opposed to this progress. As I said, I think it'd be nice. We're on a major thoroughfare now where my business is located, the retail aspect of it, on Imperial Highway. So we certainly know about super highways or whatever you refer to them as. And the exposure there is fantastic. I don't picture a small carpet store on Ormsthorpe when it's 6 lanes. I'm just as anxious to kind of get on and move on with all of this, probably as everyone here in the city is. So with that said, I guess I'll rest my case in saying that we're going to be an ally in this whole process, but as far as the numbers are concerned and the impact that it has on our day-to-day operations is ultimately what concerns us most. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to respond to a couple of those comments.
Let me just ask if there's anyone else wishing to speak on this item. Seeing no one, close that public hearing. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Basically what it is our plans are for during the construction period, we plan on not impacting ingress or egress for either of the businesses. We will be putting up steel plates in the event that a vehicle needs to enter or exit the properties. In addition, city staff has measured the distance from the front of C&O Garage to the new right-of-way line. That's 17.5 feet. We also have an 8-foot sidewalk, and then we also have a 22-foot parking lane, which will allow any vehicles to enter and exit the C&O Garage and the Petrozelli property. In addition, with regard to the appraisal process, the city did tender an offer of $5,000 to pay the property owners to obtain their own appraisals, and we are more than happy to try to negotiate with them, but until we see something or an appraisal of what their opinions are, the city can't move this thing any further.
Can you also address the appraisal numbers? I'm assuming you have an answer to that one too.
With regard to the appraisal numbers, again, that's a valuation issue, and our appraiser, who is very well experienced, she's done eminent domain appraisals for 15, 20 plus years, those are her conclusions as an appraiser. The numbers are based upon comparable market data that she located when she did her appraisal on the date of value, which is identified in the appraisal. What Mr. Petrozelli was referring to were appraisals that were provided by developers of the city yard site. They may have relied upon different appraisals, but what we have to do in terms of an eminent domain appraisal is they have to value the fair market value of the property pursuant to the Code of Civil Procedure, which is a little bit different than just a regular appraisal where you look at, comps in the neighborhood. So our appraisal is in compliance with the laws and the codes, but we did offer to pay for an appraisal for them, and we would be more than happy for them to present us with an appraisal that by an appraiser who is licensed by the real estate offices in the state of California to go forward with their own appraisal.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Questions? No.
Okay. So if the city council were to look at the board or on their displays, it will be necessary for city council to make the findings of public interest and necessity require the proposed project. The proposed project is planned and located in the manner that it will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. subject property interests are necessary for the proposed project, and that the city made an offer to the owners as required under Government Code Section 7267.2. And because there are only 4 city council members, it will have to be unanimous.
Ms. Bowman, those are all in the resolution that is before the council, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, well, we have a recommended action, and it's a long one. Entertain a motion? So.
I'll second.
Got a second? And you'd like to make comments, go ahead.
When you hear the word eminent domain, you know, that's a word that's very unpopular, and I have a little family history with an eminent domain situation. My grandfather had inherited a farm from his father, who had run for land in Indian Territory, which later became the state of Oklahoma. He got to 160 acres, and then in 1964, the state of Oklahoma needed to build a dam, and 80 acres of his property would be covered in water at certain times of the year, or rainy seasons. And so the state of Oklahoma, just before they built the dam, took that 80 acres by eminent domain. And even though it was for a public good, it hurt. And my grandfather didn't like it, and yet at the same time, you can't farm land that's underwater. And so when I will vote to support this resolution, it's with that understanding that even though it's for the public good, it's going to be used to improve Orange Thorpe Avenue. It is with that understanding that it can be hurtful to people, and at the same time, I do feel it's necessary. So that's why I seconded the motion, and that's why I will be voting for it.
Can I ask a couple more questions real quick? This has been going on for quite a long time, because I've been on city council for a lot of years, I need to count them all, but this has been coming up back and forth at different times, and part of a project, and it got dropped, and it got added on again, and added on again. Do you know how long we've been dealing with this? Or maybe I should ask Jim Byrie, because it seems like we've been working on this for a lot of years.
Well, when I got here in 2003, we were working on it, and at that point, we were working to try to require the south side of Orangeburg.
Right.
And so the deal before that, same thing, same time.
Okay.
Since 2000.
So it's been going on a long time. And we've attempted it many times to try to get through this process to figure out how to proceed and how to make it fair for everybody. And I think we've come to a point where it seems as though we've done what we can to make it appropriate and fair, and giving the parties as much of an attempt as possible. And of course, there's always two sides to every story. And we're hearing some of those today, as a matter of fact. And everybody has an opportunity for a legal remedy. If they don't find that this is suitable, they always have an option to come back and sue the city and try to find some remedy of their own. If we can't come to an agreement at some point in time, and we do find that there's a necessity to widen Orange Thorpe so it can serve the city better, I think it is prudent at this point to take this property so that we can, safely proceed with the widening of Orange Thorpe. So I think I will be supporting this as well. Okay, we have a motion and a second. And any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go roll call, please.
Brown?
Yes. Yes.
Swift? Aye.
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
It is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, and we do have next on our agenda oral communications. The public may speak at this time regarding any city-related issue. Any person desiring to speak should complete a speaker's identification form. Those are located at the back of the council chamber entrance. And you hand that to the city clerk. And speakers are limited to 5 minutes each. I'm going to ask that you raise to fill out the forms if you want to do that, because we're going to move on after that. Do we have any forms filled out or submitted?
I have 4 forms.
Okay, go ahead.
The first is from Wiley Drake, followed by James Bass.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, my name is Wiley Drake. I've lived in the city for 27 years. I was here before encouraging leniency and courtesy to old people, which I am, and homeless people, which I'm not, because of the situation with the street lights, i.e. when you go to the corner, push the button, it says walk. Police officers have told me, as late as tonight, that if it says don't walk, you're still legal to go ahead and finish your cross, even though you just started it and it says don't walk. We've had people ticketed for that, and that's a Gestapo technique, in all honesty, and I use that term reservedly, but at the same time, Gestapo would say, well, it's my word against yours. He said I started out and it was walk, and now it's don't walk, and he got a ticket for it. And we have others that have reported the same thing. It is also a Gestapo technique to take a 27-year-old daughter in the Lord, Iraqi wounded veteran, because she seemed a little disoriented, because she was wounded and her eyes were shot out, not out, but damaged when she was in Iraq a few years ago fighting for my freedom and your freedom. And then when they said, you're not a veteran, show me your papers. That's Gestapo. That's wrong. And it better stop. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to seek counsel on civil rights lawsuits. Not only in Buena Park, but in several other places around our nation. Where a pastor friend of mine in Florida has been arrested 3 times for feeding homeless. 2 other pastors arrested 3 times. This has got to stop, folks. We live in America. We have religious freedom. And for the Gestapo to take that 27-year-old wounded veteran off her bicycle, rip the backpack off of her, and then give her a ticket for no license for her bicycle. That's Gestapo, any way you look at it. And it better stop. Or we will sue. We will bring the Department of Justice to Buena Park. It's not 1997. I was convicted in this city of 4 criminal misdemeanors. I stand before you a convicted criminal. In fact, the matter is, talking about this eminent domain, let me tell you what we did, in case you think we're always causing trouble. When you widened Western, you didn't have to eminent domain the First Southern Baptist Church. We donated, gave to the city 25 frontage feet off the front of our church. We gave that to the city because we live in the city and because we love the city. But folks, it's time to do a little house cleaning, and we better do it, or it's going to cost this city a lot of embarrassment. We're on television right tonight, and people will be calling in tomorrow. What's going on in Buena Park? And I'm going to tell them the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. It better change, and we better clean it up. Thank you.
I'm not sure if they recall.
Glad that you did,
Ma'am, you're next, after Mr. Bass.
Oh, you're after him.
Not yet.
Yeah, honey.
Not your term yet. Not your turn yet.
After all that shocking stuff, I want to say good evening, Honorable Mayor Berry and City Council. First, I would like to commend Steve Berry and Elizabeth Swift for winning re-election and chosen by wise citizens of our great Buena community. And if you want to know why this mark is on my forehead, my wife said shut up, and I thought she said stand up.
Been there, done that.
Anyhow, sadly though, we have some people who want to usurp our elected officials' duties regarding zoning. The city makes rules for the open space recreational zoning for good. We now have some people who want to change that to satisfy their own personal envy and greed, driven by a realtor who admits operating in shadow. How many privately owned properties do they want to use the open space recreational rule to control? What is their honest reason for denying improvement of others' personal property? You who are elected to do good in this city are cherished greatly. Thanks again.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Next is Denise Salazar. Denise will be followed by Brenda Dory.
Okay, your turn now. No,
I think it's your turn.
That's your turn.
You're up. That's okay, we're not that formal. It seems
I'm
like
not hearing.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
How did you say me?
Pull that down, pull that down.
I'm not hearing me. Okay. We all have dreams. We all travel to a journey to the unknown. Are we a comic? The choices we make, every decision we make reflects ourselves and our future. We all have a commitment to make the choice to help each other, to protect our divine promised land. We all have feelings. We all hunger for food and shelter. And we all hunger for a family. And help children of the next generation. Open the door. Please, please, please. Open your mind. Open your hearts. Truth conquers love. God, Jesus, never closed the doors on anybody. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
The last speaker is Brenda Dory.
Actually, I'm kind of speechless right now. Can you imagine that? I have my flag up there. The daughter that you was talking about, the 27-year-old, is my daughter. And it's very, very disturbing to see this happen with her and stuff like that. She is disabled. She is half blind. She was wounded, which she had inner legs blowing up and stuff like that. She's had to have surgery, VA, and the reason why she turned around in there is because of her blindness and her glasses were not working. The ones that she has, she's waiting for the new ones to come in and take them off. Going through there, it's dark and Trico. If you're going through the one part that goes down Laurel Rose, it's pure dark through there. She decided she's going to go the other way, which is a lot lighter over there by that foster, very much lighter. She was coming to see me to help me at the church because that's what I do there. It's a home to her. It's everything to her, and she doesn't understand why this keeps happening to her. I don't know why they think she's not a vet, why she's not disabled, why she would just they would just keep doing that to her, maybe because it's the people that she hangs around with are the same ones that come and eat at my church. And she tries to help them out there as much as I do. I would like to see this stop, please. This is everything. I have her ticket. A bicycle license, is there a law? Because, I don't know, does anybody ride a bike here? Do you guys got bicycle license? Huh? Yeah, well, then you know what, I don't see anybody else getting tickets for it. I asked so many people, on video, have you got a bicycle license? No. Have you got a ticket? No. Then why that? Why 4 officers? You know, she's not on probation, she's not on parole, she's never been in trouble with the law. Why would, she said, no, you cannot search me. Why would they make her take her back off and search her? She has nothing to hide, but still, it's degrading, it hurts her so much. She's already going through enough of this. With all this stuff, she cannot handle it. Post-traumatic stress disorder, everything else is doing. Half her eyesight's gone, half her hearing's gone. So I ask that you guys just lay off, please.
Thank you very much.
Any more? No more? Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? No, just come up to the lectern. The last one. I can't get you out of order. There's only one left.
My name is Dante Villeray, homeless veteran. On a mission. God is good. I'm very grateful for this man, Mr. Dre.
Can you raise the microphone just a little bit?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if we can hear you.
I can speak up. I'm a son of an ex-Los Angeles police officer. I respect the law. I respect law enforcement. And I try to avoid any type of street interactions. I don't jaywalk. Try to do as you should do. I purchased a very expensive bicycle to go to and from work from Walmart. And I came to the city hall to register it, to do what's right. And you have specific dates that registrations take place. So I had to go and wait for that date to come. And during that time, I went to the library to do some research work and, try to advance myself from being homeless and doing what's necessary. And the library opens at 10, and my bicycle was stolen about 12. There's no cameras, there's no security, there's no nothing. I was heartbroken because I worked a lot of overtime to get that bike. You were too busy to come to the library to, do the report, so I said no problem. So I walked from the library to here, fill out a report, etc., etc. I'm just saying that to say this. Sometimes you're trying to do what's right, and you just, I don't know, it just go the other way sometimes, In front of our church, I think that corner, if you were to listen to someone with a good visual of that church property, that corner is probably one of the most dangerous corners in Orange County. It's just from my experience from the visual, due to the bridge, there's an offset. And then it's very, very dark. So I can see why people are getting killed on that corner. It's a very dangerous corner, but I'm not here to complain. I'm very grateful to be here in the city, to be a citizen, and you'll see me suited and booted, as you might say. I'm a U.S. veteran, and I try to do things right, but I do want to register my bike. I just bought a new one, and I want to do what's right, and I hope they don't steal it before I get it registered. So, thank you.
Sir, is your name John? Jay?
Dante, D-A-N-T.
Was your bike locked to a bike rack?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
It was locked down. I tried to buy the biggest lock they had. It didn't work.
Yeah, I hate that. All right. Sorry that happened to you, sir. Yeah, it happened to me a couple times. I really don't. Okay. We move on to mayor and council reports.
On October 30th, I did a Stanton State of the City luncheon in Knott's Berry Farm Hotel. On 11/5, I attended the city's annual honor walk, at which time the VFW post here in Buena Park renamed their post the Walter Ehlers, the Medal of Honor recipient that lived here in the city and passed away. They honored his wife with a plaque, Dorothy Ehlers, and it was a very nice ceremony and very nice to recognize her. On the 6th, I attended the Southern California Association of Governments meeting and was appointed to be the Metrolink representative to SCAG. On 11/8, happy birthday, Marines. I took the Marine Corps Ball, the 239th birthday. Marine Air Support Squadron 473, located at Miramar. They had their ball at SeaWorld, where I met Pitty the Penguin. On 11/10, I attended the Historic Society annual dinner and meeting. And today I attended the City Council sponsored ice cream social for city employees at the police building. And I'd just like to address one thing. I keep hearing this word Gestapo or Geheim Staatspolizei. It's German secret police. When people throw that word loosely around, the Gestapo, in my opinion, it dishonors 6 million Jews who died in Germany during World War II. You may think the tactics used by a police department are Gestapo. They're not terrorists, and they don't beat people up and terrorize them instead of the concentration camps. You may think so, but you're only saying one side of the story. I've heard the other side. And it's not your turn to talk anyway. Anyway, the Gestapo is not operating in this city, no matter what one person says. And I'd just like to clear that up. The Geheim Staatspolizei was a despicable organization set up by Hermann Göring during World War II for this only sole purpose was to terrorize German citizens that they considered disloyal and to cleanse the Aryan race. It was a disgraceful time in this world, and I'm glad that's over and we have very little of that anymore. Thank you.
Beth?
Okay. A couple of events that I attended were the same ones that Mr. Brown mentioned already. The Stanton State of City luncheon at Knott's Berry Farm Hotel on October the 30th. On the 3rd of November, Pendleton School was dedicating their new fit classroom equipped with a monitor where they show videos that the kids exercise to. They also have various stations with different kinds of exercise. It was a wonderful event. It was, I think I saw Tracy Breyers here from St. Jude Hospital. They, of course, are very interested in healthy kids, and they helped fund this, completely funded the rooms in all the classrooms, all the schools in the Buena Park School District. And then on the 5th of November, I had an Orange County Fire Authority Budget Committee meeting. Anybody interested in what we did at that meeting, you're welcome to email me. I'd be happy to give you a rundown. And also the Veterans Honor Walks that evening. I made a very short visit to the Boys and Girls Club jazz event on the 6th of November, but I had another meeting I had to go to, so I had to leave quickly, but it looks like it had a great turnout. And then on Monday of this week, November the 10th, Buena Park High School had a Veterans Day ceremony right at the beginning of school, and instead of going right to class, the kids congregated at the mall, or the quad rather, and heard the band play, the choir sing. It was a wonderful event. And then the Master Sergeant of the Air Force JROTC program there gave an inspiring speech to the kids, and then they went off to class. It was a great start to the day. Thank you.
This is my turn. We started on October the 30th. We had an oversight committee meeting. I'm one of the board members. mayor is actually the chairperson. And we've been making great progress here in our city. With all the properties on Beach Boulevard, I know you've seen the vacant properties, but we've actually got a couple big projects going on, and we basically approve them with other board members, send them out to the county, then to the state Department of Finance, and it's looking really good for us. Then on October the 30th, I also attended the Stanton State of the City luncheon, which was a wonderful State of the City luncheon, and it was exactly 30 minutes long, his speech, and it was just right to the teeth. They did a wonderful job. Like those short ones. Then November the 3rd, we had a mayor's breakfast meeting, so we're getting really close to that. Then on the 6th, we had the Boys and Girls Club blues band. It was called the Hot Donuts, and there was so much great entertainment there. Most of it all local people. Dr. Smith here in Buena Park is one of the main persons that get together, and it was outstanding. And if you didn't show up, you missed a great time. Then on Monday the 10th, we had our Historical Society installation of officers. And we actually had one of our families where the entertainers, they did the Christmas bells for us. It's the Ing family, Ringers. They live over right off the Crescent, and they have 10 children. And so they make up a complete band or orchestra or whatever you want to call those what they call the bell ringers, and they're outstanding. And we've had a couple of them here speaking on a couple of different things. And of course, today we had the ice cream social for our employees, and we had a great time here. But I do want to let people know that the city council and our staff does care about our citizens.
Amen.
If you're having problems or something's not right, maybe there's some things we need to look into or check. But you are citizens, you are part of our family here. Give us a call, give the council a call, leave a message for us if you can't get a hold of us personal. Come down here, leave a message, whatever. We will talk to you. We will make sure we get any problems taken care of. We have very highly trained professionals here in our city, and sometimes there's need for more training, and sometimes the council needs to know more things too. So we welcome all of you here in our city. So